Galushan. Welcome to another edition of Dan's Fishing Tales. I'm inside my office, as you can tell. We're definitely not out fishing. I got some fishing photos back here, which we're going to be talking about. And it's extremely cold outside. We have extreme cold warning, in fact, and temperatures. So what better time to set in and think about, well, what was my best producing lures last year and how did I use them? And some of them are the same from year to year, which I'll be telling you about, but the ones that I'm going to be showing you here, and I want to bring you in on the screen, are the ones that were the most productive last year. In fact, I got one right down here that we're going to talk about that already this year, in January, the water opened up completely, but it was extremely cold because within a week of just mildly cold temperatures, actually, that lake was frozen back up. So it was cold. I think water temperature was probably about 33, 34 degrees, and I did get it on this lure, which, as I said, we're going to be talking about. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you in. We're going to start with the ice fishing, what my best lures were there. And I think I can show you some of those there. I don't know how good of photos I've got on them, but you may know them anyway. They're all custom jigs and spins that I use. So let me stop here and I'll bring you in on the screen and we're going to start talking about them. Okay, I've got you zoomed in here. And we're going to start out with the ice fishing. Like I said, let's click on that. I've only got one of the photos taken there, and this is the bluegill, and I don't know how well you can actually see the lure. It's right here. I think you can see the little cursor. Yeah, okay. Right there is what they call a demon, and that is put out by Custom Jigs and Spins. It is a vertical jig, not a horizontal one that sets like the Tutso or the Wolf Finky. Rat's Finky, those are all horizontal. It's set, well, like I said, horizontally. And this is a vertical jig where it goes up and down and it flutters. It's sort of a spoon. The best color I used was a glow with the lime on it, and I used a panfish nibble, not a crappie nibble. The panfish nibbles are also made by Berkeley, but I used a panfish nibble, and that worked very well, and also for crappies. And Jim Norquist and Brandon, who you know from Shoot and Plank, we all caught them on those. And again, that was probably the best one. That one and also a rocker. Again, that is a Custom Jigs and Spins. Now, another thing, and in fact, I'll show you the Tutso right here. This is the Tutso, and we'll bring that in. And the Tutso, this was actually in February. There's the Tutso. Now that's got a tungsten head. It's like a Ratso, but it's got a tungsten head, and you'll notice the water is open here. And I was using a float, a Betts Mr. Crappie float, in fact, a weighted one. And there's just enough ripple on the water. That's what I want, just enough ripple. And this is, as I said, after the water had opened up. This was probably in, I'd say February, this one was taken. And it, I put a panfish or a crappie nibble, either one. I can't remember exactly what I was using this day. But I was using that on that, and also right here, this is the same thing, which I'll bring down here. There. Now you can see the body here. It's a head, but the body is actually ripped up, and it's off of there. And it's a little plastic body with a skinny tail on it, as you've seen with the other. And again, I was catching these bluegills and some crappies by just casting out to where the fish had been when it was ice on there. And they were still holding the same spot. It was that early in the year. Now, as I said, that's the best things for the earlier spring on that. Then as spring starts coming along a little bit more, I had some favorites there. One of them is well, I'll show you here. This is what they call a fat shad. They've also got the T-Shad, which is put out by natural forage bait. Here it is here. The fat shad has got a little bit fatter body, as you can see right in there. It's a little bit fatter, and it's got a split tail back here. The T-Shad has got a single type of a tail, a lot like the QC Lure Works Lock 14 Minnow, which I just started using towards the end of last year, and really can't say that it was a top producer. But this one was, and I used it in finger jigging. I'm using a custom jigs and spins. Well, actually, it's a B fishing that B&N fishing, and that one is the same thing as the custom jigs and spins. They're all one company together. But B Fish and Tackle does produce the H2O head, the precision jig head. And I use that on there. One reason I use that is because it has a wire keeper rather than the lead keeper that will split a smaller body like that out, because that's not that big. But the fat shad is a little bit bigger than the T-Shad, but the fat shad actually outproduced last year. It outproduced the T-Shad, especially on the finger jigging, and you just have to go back and look at a finger jigging video to know what I'm talking about there. Another one that I used for crappies earlier is this right here. This is a crappie extractor. It's from Team Crappie. It's the Roadrunner series, the Team Crappie Roadrunner series. And this has got, I don't know if you can see it or not. We're going to try to bring it on down here. Here we go. This has got a double tail, double swim tail going like this. So you really get an action kind of like this with the tail. And that one worked very well, again, earlier in the year when the crappies actually were hitting, when the water temperature was getting, let's say around 54 degrees in there somewhere, 45, 50 degrees. Well, then what we had was a thing that we call or they do call, it's also with the Team Crappie, and that's the slab spanker. And the back of this, the body of this is a Roadrunner, again, Team Crappie. This worked very well for bass, and the body is a smaller version of, well, what QC Lure Works has now is called a puddle thumper, which we're going to get to a little bit later. And I got several bass on this. I'll bring it up here so that you can see. And I'll show you one too that Jim Norquist caught on it, but you can't see his because it's kind of hidden. But you can see it right here. It's actually got a curl tail to it with a paddle tail on it. So it's got a double action with it. And that worked very well, again, in the spring. And here's one that Jim caught. This is Jim Norquist. He caught one. And what I was doing with these is just pretty much a pump and also a slow retrieve, just a slow, steady retrieve. That was the same thing with that crappie extractor that I had, but the shad that I was telling you about, the fat shad, that was a finger jigging on that, because that's mainly what I use with those. Now, as the season progressed, we get into some others, and also earlier in the year. Now this is, I know sometimes this sounds a little strange, but rattle traps work very well in the earlier of the year, and also later in the year. Well, actually any time, but it depends on what you're doing. Now this one right here is the regular rattle trap, but what it is it's a white bleeding shiner, and that's probably one of my favorite colors. And this particular fish, I caught it on a pump retrieve. I remember that because, well, that's what I use a lot. This was not a straight retrieve. You can use several different retrieves on these. But when in the colder water and the real hot water, now the real hot water you can go either way. You can go either with a pump retrieve or you can go with a real fast retrieve. It's kind of odd, but that's what you can do. And with the pump retrieve, it depends on how cold the water. If the water is really, really cold, Then you let it go all the way to the bottom and maybe set for just about a second and then pull it up a little ways and then let it go back down. And they will hit, at least in the warmer water, they will hit a lot as it falls back, where on the colder water, they'll hit as you bring it up. Now I'll show you one here too, because there's another bait that Bill Lewis Fishing puts out, and it's called a hammer trap. Right here, this is the hammer trap. Now the hammer trap is, it's made, as you can see, the body's made a little bit different than a rattle trap. It has got 3 tone chambers in it with the rattles. It has a vibration on a fall and the lift, and that's what it's made for. It is for a pump. And this fish probably hit it on the rise because it was in warmer water. But now we're going to get to what I caught this year already in January, and this one right here, this fish hit on the lift. After I had went down with it, again I'll show you this up close, you can see that it's definitely made a little different. It has a little bit more detail to the body. It's got a thicker head to it, which you really can't tell here. But that is made for the pump retrieve. That's really what that's made. And the water temperature there was, I think, about 33, 34 degrees. Because it was just out. The ice had just went out completely. The lake went totally out. Just got that warm, and now it's all froze back up. Well, let's go with some others here that we haven't talked about. Right here, this is a favorite. This is a QC Lure Works, and I'll bring it up. It's called a meat stick. And again, I use this meat stick on, well, this one is a 3/16 ounce H2O head. And I will crawl it, I'll pump it. I don't finger jig this one. I can, but I don't. It's because it is a little bit thicker. As I said, it's called a meat stick. It's a pretty doggone heavy worm. But it worked very well, as you can see here with this fish. It was a nice fish that we caught. Now let's see, go to because we're going to talk about some of the hot weather baits too that we got. Now when it gets hot, and any time that it's tough fishing, this one is a carryover. This has worked for several years. It's a natural forage bait, 4-inch. What they call R4. It's a finesse worm. This particular head, and I can actually see the, I don't know if you can, it says 1/8. It's an 1/8 ounce head. That's what I was using on that. And that worm, that 4-inch worm, I will finger jig it. And just like I do the minnow. And it takes that tail and just flips it along like that. And it also works very good for a pump, or just a slow, straight, do-nothing retrieve, and I've caught them a lot that way. Let's see, what else we got for some favorites here. Well, just like that one, this is a good one to pick. This is called an Enforcer. It's put out by QC Lure Works. It's about a 3-inch worm, really, and it's made a little bit different. It really is, it's round, and it just tapers right down to a point on this one. And I'm using a 3/32 ounce head on this. That's how small it is. That one, yes, I definitely finger jig on it. But a slow pump, just let it go down and just kind of twitch it on the bottom, just kind of like dip, dip, and dip, dip, that sort of a thing. That works extremely well on this Enforcer. And it did. Got quite a few on that. Another QC Lure Works one that I want to bring out is called a Snatcher. Now this is it here, and it's rigged on a Pro X hook. Now those Pro X hooks are very, very good. They're extremely sharp. They got an X point to them. They're a lot like an X point, but the hook it doesn't have any bend to it at all. It sets the hook. That's all I can say. But this is a Snatcher, and I'll bring it up a little bit for you. Right here. This is a QC Lure Works Snatcher, and I got it Texas rigged, but it makes also a very good jig trailer. But my favorite way was to Texas rig it, And I did that in two different ways. I just did it as a slow swim. As you can see, it's got tails that will kind of flap like this. And I just did it with a real slow, kind of a twitch type of a retrieve on the bottom, or I'll sit there and just hop it a little bit and then bring it. And that's how I caught them. I used it a lot in the weeds. You can see some of the weeds here on it, in fact. And let's see what else we got here, because I'm saving this one till last to show it to you. I think we've covered all those, because those have been my most producing lures for last year, and like I said, even some years before. Now this one definitely was last year. This fish right here, and I'll show you the lure up closer. This was caught with a Casey's runner head, which I've used a lot, but I put a different body on it called a puddle thumper, and it's put out by QC Lure Works. This particular color is a chartreuse and white, and I'll show it to you closer here in a minute. And I was just swimming that, just taking it and just swimming along slowly, letting the blade turn, the willow leaf blade, because those Casey's runner heads, they have got a ball bearing swivel on them. They turn very, very easy. They're good for putting down if you're in deep water, but if you're in water where you're a little bit shallower, you got to bring it along a little faster. But this tail, this particular body that I put on it, really works well for either a slow or a fast retrieve, a constant retrieve. But it also works well for a pump, and I'll show you here. That is the puddle thumper. And you can see it has got a paddle tail and a sickle tail to it. So it's got two different actions, and that's what makes it so good on the fall. And then of course this ball bearing swivel on the Casey's head. This particular head, I think I was using a 1/4 ounce. I think that's a 1/4 ounce. A little hard to tell on a picture, but they come in a 1/4 and also a 3/8 ounce. And they got very, very sharp hooks. But with that blade, and it clears the blade clears it real well. They don't get tangled up. I didn't have any problems with it like that. And it just, I mean, it just worked great. That definitely was one of my favorites and best producers towards the end of the year. And so I'm going to be using it more this season. There's no doubt about that. And again, that's a QC Lure Works puddle thumper. I've got another color in that. I think I've only got one other color, and it's kind of a chartreuse and black. And I got a feeling, but it's a kind of an off chartreuse. It's more of a green, a green with that, and the black is even on the verge of almost being gray. It's just a different color. And I'm going to try that. Have not tried that color. This is the only color I've tried in it, and it's worked very, very well. But anyway, that is some of what I used this past year. You can see them. And I think I got them all, and those have been my best. I've used a lot of other lures, and well, they've just all worked well. So as I said, I showed you everything that was my best producing lures for this past year, and which was 2025, by the way. And 2026, I was already started. I got my first bass on that one right down there, that hammer trap, and that again was with the pump retrieve. But I'm going to be trying these same ones and probably trying some others too. There's a lure called a bristleback hog that QC Lure Works puts out, and it's being introduced in February this year at a show in Rock Island. It's the outdoor show that the QCCA puts on, but that is where it's going to be first available. And I think he's got some others too coming out. And I didn't show you the Lock 14 minnow because I haven't redone that much with it yet, and I wouldn't say that it was one of my top producers like these were, because as I said, I just haven't done that much. But this spring, yep, it's going to get a finger jigging job, and I think that it's going to work pretty well for crappies. And well, we're just going to wait and we're going to see, and then maybe next year when I do this and I look back, we'll be talking about it more. But anyhow, those are the lures that have been my best producers this last year, and some of which have been producers every year, like that 4-inch R4 worm there that I had, and of course the old Roadrunner, it's always a producer, and the same with the rattle trap. Rattle traps are a carryover. Hammer traps are new, so but they really hung in there. They did great. Again, the best way to use the hammer trap is with a pump. There's no doubt about that. So until next time, get out of the water and have a great day of fishing.